Hello, everybody. I am Priscilla Fleming, an American massage therapist, and I am excited to speak with Ann Davey today on the Massage and Myotherapy Connect show about the safety of massage therapists.
Okay, working with the carpal tunnel, I like to take my patient's hand into a full supinated position. I like to take my index and middle finger onto the hamate where the carpal tunnel is on that ulnar aspect. I then like to take my index and middle finger from my right hand onto the radial aspect of the carpals where the carpal tunnel is on that side. And then my thought is to influence sort of a spreading of that tissue. Now we know that tissue has a tensile strength of about 2,000 pounds per square inch and that we're not really capable of lengthening that tissue, but it is a sensory organ, it is innervated, and we do want to try and change the sensory information that is happening at that area. So if we can contact that tissue, think about trying to spread our fingers apart, and then taking the hand from a supinated neutral position all the way through to a pronated position, still spreading the fingers apart. All along the way, we are assessing for an increase in densification, a resistance to movement. We're looking for any type of cogwheel sensations where we'll be moving along and we hit an area where there's a resistance, and then we can load into that area, meeting the reciprocal tension of the tissue, wait for a softening or an unprotecting and a change to take place, an increase in hydration, an increase in synovial fluid production, and then move through that point through the rest of the range, and then coming back, reassessing again, spreading the fingers, keeping the contact constant throughout the whole movement, taking it from a neutral position to a pronated position. That is the technique for treating carpal tunnel.
Hi everyone, welcome to this month's episode of Massage and Myotherapy Connect, and I am excited to be here with Priscilla Fleming. Hi Priscilla.
Hello.
Nice to see you. So we met because I stumbled on an article that you'd written about the safety of massage therapy practitioners in their clinic, and then I reached out via LinkedIn, and we've been fortunate that you've written some articles for us in our journal. So you're not only focusing on advocacy and safety, you are a practitioner. Do you want to talk about the journey from practitioner to the work that you're doing?
Yeah, of course. So first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm excited to be here and to connect with you to speak about safety for massage therapists a little bit further. I know, as you mentioned, you had stumbled across my article on safety. It was a 3-part article that you have so graciously also printed for Australia to have as well. I became a licensed massage therapist back in 2019. When I first became licensed, I wasn't prepared for the amount of harassment or solicitation that I would begin to receive. I actually almost left the industry my first month of being licensed due to a traumatic encounter I had had with a client. And then I realized that encounter that I had wasn't an isolated incident. I went on to receive various levels of harassment and even assault at every place that I worked, whether it was a chiropractic office, whether it was a private practice or a franchise. There wasn't a lot of support for massage therapists. Most of the boards or organizations that we have in place are for the public safety. So there wasn't a lot of resources or help for massage therapists. So I couldn't find a lot of support. So in March of 2020, I opened my own practice because I wanted to have more control over who I allowed in my professional space. I ended up closing 7 days later because of the pandemic. And unfortunately, in those 7 days that I was open for myself, I had my first client intentionally expose their genitals. So once again, I was in a situation where I had to process this traumatic encounter with a client. And once again, I considered leaving the industry. But that situation was really the catalyst for my advocacy work. I needed to regain my power because those experiences were so traumatic that I was having a hard time processing them. So I turned to speaking out. I wasn't the only massage therapist that this was happening to. So I wanted to have that conversation. I wanted to make the public more aware about what we were going through. And it was important to me to find my voice to stay in this industry. And that was the catalyst of my class that I now teach, which is on safety and solicitation for massage therapists. And we deep dive into those power dynamic negotiations and gaslighting techniques we often see from sexual solicitors. And that's was also the catalyst for those articles that you had seen. I wrote some for Massage Magazine, which is an organization here that we had touched base. And last summer, there was a very famous athlete here that 66 massage therapists have came forward against with sexual assault allegations. And at the time, I had reached out to all of our major massage organizations for their help because that athlete's lawyer publicly made a statement that happy endings weren't illegal and what his client did to these massage therapists wasn't illegal. So I was begging our organizations to speak out against that and help us. And Massage Magazine actually asked me to be the voice behind that message, which was a fantastic opportunity for me to regain that voice that I had been searching for, speak up for massage therapists. And then it also fortunately connected me with you, which is super awesome.
Yeah. And I think that the athlete that you speak about, they almost tried to normalize that that's what happens in the massage clinic. Yeah. And, our members, yourself, members of the associations you just discussed, all work in the health sector. They're not working in the sex industry. And you're right, exactly. The public are confused. It's very difficult for the public to recognise what is health sector and what is a brothel or sexual services. Yes. And so there's a lot to this in that it's educating the public and also educating therapists on how to manage that.
Yes. Especially because the public, especially over here in the States, a lot of the exposure that they have to massage therapy is through news articles that are associated with illicit sex work or trafficking or pop culture references where massage therapists are always the butt of the joke and there's some sort of innuendo involved there. So there's just this huge misconception about what it is that we do. And because of that misconception, clients come in seeking these services that they think that we are providing, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah, and that's something that in a previous interview that I've done with Micah Jo Rose now, she said that even her family and friends, she was the butt of jokes from them because they didn't understand this industry. So, and, whilst it can seem harmless, it can have a long-lasting effect, which it did on you because you nearly left the industry. Yeah. A couple of times. Yeah. And, in Australia, I'm not sure if it's the same where you are, the news generally highlights, the media generally highlights where a therapist it's gone the other way, not the client, where a therapist has been accused of sexual misconduct with a client. But the more I delve into it, the more I'm seeing that it's actually more the other way. I'm not dismissing that that's what happens, but is it the same for you?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if it's more one way or the other because
Yeah,
there's not a lot of research as
yeah,
far as how often it's happening to us. But yeah, you were absolutely correct. Over here, most of the news articles outside of the trafficking and the illegal brothels are focused on massage therapists assaulting the public.
yes, yeah. And so I think, us doing, discussing it highlights it that it's not necessarily a one-way street, so to speak.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
I was listening to your conversation with Micah, and you had mentioned that your organization did that survey with your therapist, and
Mm.
was it 54% were solicited at least once a week?
Yes,
That's
yes.
insane.
It is insane. It is. And I think that is part of the problem, which is what you've alluded to, in that we don't talk about it, or up
Mhm.
until more recent times, with people such as yourself and the research that's going on. Now that it is being discussed, we can do something about it, whereas before it was always just not talked about. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There were two studies that came out here in Canada and the United States. I don't. They didn't mention the frequency as far as in depth of your study was, as far as weekly or annually or
Yeah.
whatever the range was. But their survey out of the massage therapists that were surveyed, they found that 76% of us have been harassed or solicited at work, and I'm sorry, 75%, and 26% of us have been solicited or harassed more than 3 times.
Yeah, yeah, it's just not good enough, really. And
Yeah.
in Australia, we have recently, the government has introduced respect at work, and an employer is responsible for the employee's safety, which is another conversation that we're having over here, because it's very difficult to ensure safety where it's just the practitioner and the client in the room.
Yeah,
Which leads
yeah,
me to your book and your advice that you're providing, and tools, I suppose, for practitioners. So do you want to talk about your book and your Facebook group as well? Yeah.
yes, yes. So my book is a workbook for massage therapists, and it really stems from the course that I teach. It is called A Body Worker's Guide to Safety and Solicitation, and it's a deep dive into, again, those power dynamics in the therapeutic relationship and gaslighting tactics. And it is a tool that I am hoping is used to empower massage therapists to recognize those red flags of predatory massage clients and to trust themselves. That gut feeling and our intuition. I feel like when we get into this industry, we want to help people, and we're often people pleasers, and we feel bad for offending people. So this book is to help empower massage therapists. If something feels off or wrong or uncomfortable, there are tools in there to help them get out of that situation. So how can they end
Mm.
the session? How can they professionally and confidently decline services with a client that makes them uncomfortable? How can they, or us, how can we prevent solicitors and predatory clients from coming into our treatment space to begin with? It is used as a more proactive approach to our safety, because the goal for me is to avoid being in those situations, avoid having a predatory client on my table, avoid being alone with a potentially dangerous person. So that's what the workbook is for. It goes
Yeah.
over how to build policies, how to realize what your boundaries are, how to
Yeah.
put your boundaries into policy, how to communicate with your employers about your boundaries. Because I'm a huge advocate for working for establishment that respect your boundaries. And part of that is respecting the fact that if a client makes you uncomfortable and you do not want to be alone in a room with them, your employer should respect that. So this
Yeah.
workbook kind of guides them through how to handle those situations.
Yeah.
And the Facebook group is called LMTs for Zero Tolerance. You don't necessarily have to be a massage therapist to join the group. Um, Other business owners that aren't in the industry, or other healthcare providers or service providers, have come into the group. The group is really in place, again, to empower. It's a safe space to validate things that we go through with clients. I think anybody really that works in the customer service spectrum has come across abusive clients. And our culture has always been the customer is always right. But I disagree with that when the customer is being abusive. So the Facebook group is there to help support each other. There's a lot of suggestions and advice as far as establishing boundaries and professionally communicating. And then it's a space there to collaborate with colleagues. If a client makes you uncomfortable or there's a gray flag that you're not sure might be predatory, you have the advice of your colleagues that can help you navigate those situations.
And then you're not alone. It's not you. It's not something that you have done.
Yes.
It's not. And you are right. I've been speaking to another association in the hospitality industry, and it's just as big a problem now. So, and it becomes a he said, she said. But if you've got the tools, as you say, to prevent it before it gets to that point, and boundaries, that's such a powerful tool, powerful word to and massage is such a dare I say an intimate very well, obviously close contact, that boundaries can very easily be blurred as you get to know your therapist or get to know your client. And it's something that really needs to be front of mind all of the time, doesn't it?
All of the time, all the time. And it is an intimate setting. We are alone for long periods of time. We are often the person that our client is going to open up to because they trust us. We are establishing this very trusting and safe environment. And that could be a lot of weight on our shoulders as a practitioner. That's why it's so important, not even for the safety aspect of things, but if our boundaries aren't established or we're not respecting ourselves enough to even know what those boundaries are, we're going to burn out so quickly in this industry. We're not going to be able to give our clients the care that they need or they deserve. And we're not going to be able to give ourselves the care that we need or we deserve. They're so important.
That's right. Self-care is not selfish, which is a very good mantra. Yes.
My favorite.
Yes. So we have the third part of the article coming out in our next journal, which is really exciting. I'm very grateful that you've allowed us to print it. So where can they get the book from? From your website or? Yeah.
Yep. They can get it from my website. It's pflemingmassage.com, or they can also get it from Amazon, whatever's easier.
Whatever's easier. But we will we'll print those details in the journal. So what's next for you? Is it more advocacy, more teaching, more?
Yes.
All of the above.
Yes. I am trying to teach my class more. Over here in the US, my class is available for continuing education credits. So every few years, we need to have a certain number of ethics continuing education. So I'm trying to get more dates. My goal is in the next couple of months to have a year's worth of classes available, whether it's in person or webinar. Because over in the States, I finally got it approved as a webinar class as well.
Oh, fantastic.
So it is a 4-hour live in-person class, but I broke it down to be 1-hour webinar classes with 4 different subjects. So because ethics can be a lot to handle, especially in a webinar setting. So I try to make it a little bit more digestible. And then I also recently became the director of education for one of our massage organizations, the United States Organization of Licensed Massage Therapists. And one of the things that I really appreciate about this organization is that they are very passionate about advocacy. So I'm excited to see where our journey together kind of leads my path.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we'll have to get you back and we can hear all about that. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And, I'm sure that, we'll be talking to you again, but we'll keep our relationship going. So Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much, Anne.
Okay, thanks.